anything. What's up, Flezick? Why does it still say going live? What the hell? Did it just go live? Yep, sure did. 6 seconds. Oh man, that's too bad. I guess I navigated away, and if you do that before it's fully live, then it doesn't, so that sucks. The people in the other stream are gonna only get this part. Anyways, so my mom's favorite person of all time was Robin Williams. And about a year before I went to see my mom, I was at work at a pot farm, and I went into the John, and I was sitting there, and I'm not a fan of Robin Williams. I never think about Robin Williams. I've never thought about Robin Williams in my entire life, unless he was like on TV or in a movie someone was watching. And, you know, but he was my mom's favorite person. And I thought, I wonder what Robin Williams is doing right now. And then my girlfriend showed up about 3 hours later, and she's like, Robin Williams hung himself today. So it just occurred to me that the only 2 times that I've ever been aware that some person hundreds or thousands of miles away had hung themselves was my mother. I knew the moment she did it. And I thought of Robin Williams the moment he did it, who was my mom's favorite celebrity, and they killed themselves the same way. So, you know, I guess the silver lining in this entire saga is that it says something about our interconnectedness. You know, it's really remarkable. But yeah, so I returned to Ecuador the next day, I think, and I met up with my stepfather. The girl came with me, and here's where it gets bad, because you can imagine that if you know that I grew up with my mom basically telling me that she was going to kill herself eventually because of me, right? Like, I've been hearing this since I was like 4 or 5 years old, constantly. And then I get into this huge fight with her that she deliberately provoked, right? And then she'll like, because being victimized that's what they want. So she's trying to provoke it as much as possible. She would even smirk, when if she provoked it and she got the better of me and I did it, then she would smirk, You could see the satisfaction on her face. Like, oh, give it to me. Like, victimization is, it's fucking horrific. But that's the psychology of it. And so we go to the funeral home, and I'm still kind of in denial. Like, this can't be real, it just can't be real. And then, I see the look on my stepfather's face, and I realize that, and also one of their neighbors is there, and my stepfather's told everyone about this terrible fight. So it hits me that everyone blames me for her suicide. All of them. The entire community of Vilcabamba, my stepfather. So I realize that I'm about to have to sit in this sort of funeral. It was really just an incineration of the body. That's all that happened. But they put me in this room and they wheeled my mom out in a glass case. And I really didn't know what to say, I just said, what the fuck, Mom? Like, really? She wouldn't take plant medicine because she would vomit. She said she didn't want to vomit. It's like, okay, so you're scared to vomit, but you can hang yourself? Like, what? How is this? I don't understand, how this could be. And I guess she sent my stepfather to the store for milk, and while he was gone, she went out to the garage, and when he got back, he found her that way. And of course the fact that she refused to try to get help, she refused treatment, she refused to admit the severity of the problems, that also caused a lot of resentment. And so they wheeled her out to this building, and they put the box on a thing that drops into the floor, and the floor opened up and all these flames belched up around the coffin. And my stepfather is up there bawling, and the coffin is dropping down into the flames. I mean, it was so surreal, you know, like you don't expect that you're ever going to see anything like that anyways, much less with your mom, and you know. But I was so, the only time I've cried in the last 30 years, let's see, I'm 44. I don't think I've cried since I was like 6 or something. I mean, maybe 9. I cannot remember a single time except for when my dog died. I cried like a little baby. Like it was just my whole world, you know. My only Diesel, his name was Diesel. He was a Staffordshire Terrier, and he was like a human, you know. He would stand on his head and like shit on a windowsill so that people wouldn't step on it on the sidewalk, you know. If I left him home too long, he would shit in the trash can, stand on his head so he could shit in the trash can. You know, he was just a remarkable animal, and he was just always with me. And then one day at a job, he just dropped dead. He probably had a heart attack or something. But here I am in my mother's funeral without a tear in my eye, just stoic, sitting there, and Frederico, I think his name was a little tiny, you know, Indian indigenous people are really, really diminutive. So I'm sitting there not shedding a tear, and everyone in the room blames me for her death, and he's just staring at me. Like, he's sitting beside me and just staring at me. Like, you fucking piece of shit. Like, how could you do this to your mother? Just without, like, he did not look away for a second, you know? And I think the fact that I wasn't crying just really confirmed everything, that I was like some kind of tyrannical monster. And, you know, I haven't said much about the other side of my mom. She had a huge heart. She was very generous. She would pay the rent of people around Vilcabamba with my stepfather's money. You know, his family's pretty well off, so, you know, they would just always borrow money from his mom, and then she would give it away everywhere. You know, she absolutely loved animals, and that's all these people saw of her. So it looked like I was just this completely psychotic, you know, evil, ungrateful bastard that had just come and been horrible to his poor, sweet saint of a mom, you know. And then so going to Vilcabamba and all the people there, you know, so many of them my mom had helped, and so I was just an absolute villain. So by the way, that explains the title here, you know. So I guess at some point, you know, there has to be some kind of healing, some kind of integration, some kind of forgiveness. And unfortunately for me, the impact of that influence continues to reveal itself. And that makes it extremely difficult. And, you know, you can't hold on to resentments. They make you bitter. They make you dead inside. And I think that I've realized over the years that I was able to convince myself that I just wasn't close to her, and she had done so much damage, and I hadn't even been in my life for almost a decade when she died. That I just kind of took it in stride. And it's only recently when I split up with my partner that I realized that there's some part of my subconscious that believes that it was my fault. You know, I mean, as I said before, I grew up hearing this constantly, that I would eventually drive her to suicide, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, you know, and I wish I had more answers. This isn't really a stream with like a solution. I'm really only sharing the story because I'm hoping that there could be something in the story that could help someone that's experienced something similar. And it's not like some part of me doesn't love my mother. Of course, the mental illness is progressive. So when I was a little toddler, I have the best memories of her. She was a sweet little hippie woman. She opened up a baby tiger cage at a zoo one time and took the tiger out and handed it to me I was like holding this little baby tiger, and I remember catching geese with her at these farms, and she really wanted us to eat all organic, and she really had the right kind of values, and then I guess as the years went by and the pressures of the world, sort of exerted their influence on her, and just the tendency of trauma, unaddressed trauma, untreated trauma, is that it just amplifies and amplifies and amplifies and amplifies. And also, she was hit by a truck while she was delivering mail, and the car went 63 feet airborne without the wheels touching the ground, and hit a tree, and all of the mail trays hit her in the back of the head, and so she was losing the use of her arms, and she was in a lot of pain, and there was a lot to it. But yeah, it's really only in the last week or so that I really realized how much this has damaged me. Especially having to live with the guilt. This constant inundation of accusations and, from my mother her whole life. And then can you imagine you have a terrible fight with your mom and she commits suicide 2 days later, a week later, whatever it was. It's just almost inconceivable. And on a spiritual level, I'm going to offer you guys something that may be helpful if you're considering suicide, because it's the real reason, according to ayahuasca, that you should not do it. And that reason is that it doesn't stop anything. It doesn't end. What happened is I was laying now with my partner back at the same shaman in the jungle, and that was such a beautiful moment, because he had seen me learn what unconditional love was, right? Like, because of my mom's disposition, I put up a firewall between me and her as a toddler. Like, I knew that I needed to protect myself. So I didn't know what unconditional love was. I really didn't. My mom did not love me in the way that a normal mom would. She was not capable of that. And I know a lot of people out there would say, like, well, that's not possible. All moms love their children. No. She could only understand it in a possessive, controlling, manipulative. There was no real love. Trust me. There was nothing like that. That can't happen with this type of person. It doesn't mean there's no good in them, but it's just not there. So he watched me discover what unconditional love was with my partner one night with ayahuasca and Bobansana. Before we were a couple, I didn't think that was happening. We were just friends, and I realized that, standing down by the bushes, waiting for her to come out of the bathroom, that I had this absolute good intention towards her, and I had no investment. Like, I didn't want anything from her. I just wanted her to be happy and healthy, and I realized that this glowy feeling I had that was absolute peace that it was the first time in my entire life that I had felt unconditional love for another human being, at 38. So, it was a crazy thing to show up to the shaman, a few months later. I had gone back to the States. My partner had come to meet me in California. We'd come back again. And so now we were there as a couple. And it was really a tremendous, tremendous thing. And so we're laying on the deck, and we drink the ayahuasca. And the shaman had a terrific ability to anticipate problems. So one of the ways that I knew that something intense was about to happen is that he would be above me or beside me with limpieza shaking, which it's different than like the Quichua use. They use the Shuar use our ficus because it gets rid of parasites, and so that their logic is that whatever it does chemically, basically in the real world, it also does in the spirit world. So that's why they use the ficus. And the agua farita, I hear it above me, and the song comes, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by this circle of spirit beings. There's 12 of them, and I've never seen them so clearly before. And they're doing this really slow, weird dance that they're always doing. And I notice one of them is female, and I see my partner sit up, and I see the female one reach out to my partner, and my partner reaches back to embrace this spirit being. And I'm just like sitting there going like, this is just too much. And at the last second, the spirit's like, psych, don't touch me, mortal, And I see my partner look kind of dejected and lay down, And I was like, man, that is just wild. But before I could even finish that thought, my mom comes down out of the stars, and she has like blue flames coming out of her eyes, and she's just furious and angry, and the spirit beings turn to demons. They all sprout horns, there's flames everywhere, and it was too much for me. One of the things that I was taught, because I was basically apprenticing under this shaman, I did not ask to do that. I was elected, because very early when I was drinking, I was just intuitively just taking care of people, and even using shamanic techniques that no one had taught me. And so he noticed that, and you were becoming a shaman. And so he started, kind of apprenticing me without any extra charge or anything. And so one of the things we were taught is that you never curl up into the fetal position, no matter what is happening. And I curled up into the fetal position. I was freezing cold, and I just couldn't deal. It was just too much. And then later my partner said, because I was trying to get her attention, like, because I wanted a hug or something, which you also shouldn't do. And she wouldn't respond, and I asked her later why, and she said, because we were surrounded by skeletons and death. And I was like, wow, man. So at any rate, I understood eventually that what ayahuasca was communicating is that you should not kill yourself, not because some angry, vengeful God will hate you because you have sinned. It is because you're trapped in that energetic, emotional state, and you will remain that way, and it's actually much more difficult to correct it when you're not in a physical body. And the craziest part of the story, actually, is that I went out into the jungle to get a hold of myself and kind of shake it all off. Just a little bit into the jungle, there's like a clearing by the house where you could go without worrying about getting lost. And earlier in the day, the shaman had passed out mapacho cigars to everyone. Mapacho is a type of tobacco that is used in ceremony and as medicine here, which is counterintuitive to a lot of people from the white culture or whatever. It has like 16 times as much nicotine as the commercial tobaccos, and also has harmala alkaloids like ayahuasca. So it's a very, very important shamanic tool. And at the waterfall, he had given a mapacho cigar to everyone but me. And I was standing there thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, I want a mapacho cigar. And so I'm standing there in the woods thinking about all this stuff that has happened. And then I see out of the darkness a mapacho cigar being handed to me. And it was, it's like he just intuited that I was going to need it a hell of a lot more later. So wild, man. So, I kind of told him what happened, and he just, well, have the cigar, talk to your mother. I'll see you later. Goes back in the house. And so I did. I smoked the cigar, and I tried to just, explain that I was sorry, and that I understood that, it was just her trauma from childhood that had caused her to act in this way, and, and then I was walking out of the jungle, and I hear Pachamama say, I have something to tell you. I said, okay. Your mother did not go into the stars. She went into Enrico's womb. I was like, what? 10 days later, we found out she was pregnant. And so also, the first time I saw her, that same voice said, she'll have your baby. Our son is now 4. So, who knows? Could be a coincidence, but kind of doubt it. And so, that's the story. And I wish I had some kind of happy ending that I could say, like, I've come to terms with it, and I figured out the key to forgiveness. And one thing I can tell you is that there is something that you can do that really helps. And that is to remember that every single predator, every single abuser, every single victim, every single survivor, people that do wrong to others, even if the wrong that they have done to others is something they've done to themselves, it's their parents. And their parents did it because of their parents. And their parents did it because of something their parents did to them. And it's not just the parents, it's somebody in the past, But when you have this resentment and blame, then you just remind yourself that somebody did something to them. And somebody did something to those people. And so this rage and resentment kind of disperses through the ancestral chain, because there's really, it's almost like that, go take it all the way back to the original sin. By the way, you guys, I guess I haven't asked in a while, but please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider joining our Patreon. I'm demonetized. And man, I've been through the ringer lately. So much death. We're going to talk about another suicide, another death, and then splitting with my partner is basically a death. And then you add all the financial stuff that comes with it. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's a lot right now to soldier up and continue marching. But speaking of marching, if you happen to be in PSOC tomorrow, I'm giving a talk at Soul Seed Cafe on cultural appropriation, sort of, and the shadow side of psychedelics and plant medicine. And interestingly, we are all people, all of the main speakers except for one are people with a background in the Western mystery tradition to some extent, but one of the other speakers is coming from a Christian point of view, which we do not appreciate, those of us who come from the older lineage. In fact, we really, really, really hate that. And it's ironic that there's this example of cultural appropriation that is thousands of years old instead of 10. And in our opinion, as the Kabbalion says, the original impulse of the gnosis is what was sort of stolen by all of these different religions. And then you see what happens. Like, the idea of the gnosis is everyone is sovereign, everyone is their own shaman, everyone is their own prophet. The only possible way to acquire spiritual knowledge is through direct experience. You can't get it from a book, you don't get it from a priest, and you certainly don't inculcate Jesus as a figurehead into the gnosis, because that defeats and destroys the entire thing. So at least from my point of view, this guy represents this kind of appropriation, and you can see the rift that it creates, because in our opinion, when you see what happened when they contaminated the gnosis in the mystery traditions with religion, it ran amok all over the planet, destroying entire cultures, genociding people, torture, oppression. Science is set back 200 years. And so that is the consequence of this appropriation. And it's going to be a mess because I am not going to get around. I'm sorry to hear that, Cloven Beast. Sorry guys, I just wanted to check the, Did I say anything about joining my Patreon and supporting the channel, please? Because, I'm out here trying to do good work and dig up ancient secrets and preserve them and disseminate them. And I can't do it without spending money, unfortunately. So we do appreciate support. So where are we going with this? I think I had yet another tragic story to share. Speaking of the limitations of plant medicine and guilt, because, whether it's my fault that my mother killed herself or not, I will never, ever, ever be able to extricate myself completely because of that argument. There's no, saying that it didn't contribute is just stupid, you can't really just, my brain doesn't work that way. Reality is reality, very logical and pragmatic and objective about things, and there's no separating the fact that it certainly didn't help. And so there's another case where I feel not exactly some degree of not responsibility, but there's more that I could have done, and I knew that there was more that I could do. And the lesson here, it's twofold. In the case of my mom, I guess you never know when the last time you're going to see someone alive is. And so absolute self-control at all times, no matter what, is a necessity. Almost no one attains that level of discipline. And when the circumstances are so extreme, but you simply must, or you can wind up with all of this regret and shame that I don't know I'll ever completely rid myself of, But in this other case, there's a young man by the name of Eric Powell, who some of you actually knew as Mr. Charles. And Mr. Charles was a very kind-hearted, highly intelligent, sweet human being, and he had epilepsy. And he could not drive a car, he could not hold a job, it limited his ability to live a normal life to, it was very debilitating. And so that led to a lot of drug abuse, methamphetamine, heroin, you name it, I don't know about alcohol. But he was a huge supporter of mine from the very first video, I believe. He was there in every stream for years and years. And eventually, when we started having our events in Tenna, he came. And he was still on his medication. You guys can actually watch the interview. It's on the channel, where he talks about this himself. But he had 2 seizures, one of them I witnessed, in the first 24 hours that he was in Ecuador, while still on the medication. Okay, so if you stop taking the medication, the side effect is that you have seizures, right? So he did not tell me that he was doing this. I wouldn't have objected, but I also would not have told him to stop taking his medication. It was not contraindicated with any of the plants here. And, I would not have advised him. But he, behind my back, without telling me, he stopped taking the medication when he arrived at the property. And there is a plant here that is used for, well, not here because I'm in the mountains now, but in the jungle, called ajo de monte. Ajo de monte. It has another name. Most plant medicine people call it something else. Ajo sacha, I think. But in Ecuador, we call it ajo de monte. It's a vine that smells just like garlic. You tear the leaves and smell it, it smells just like garlic. If you break open the stems, there's a pith inside that is even stronger, more effective. And so ayahuasca also, people have reported permanent relief from migraines, including my ex-partner. She actually took ayahuasca while she had a migraine and never had another migraine, as far as I know. So I knew that I had plants at my disposal that might help him. And ajo de monte wasn't the only one that treats epilepsy. So I made him teas. And from the moment he stepped foot on that property, he didn't have another seizure the entire month that he was there, even though he had stopped taking his medication and he was still having up to 2 seizures in 24 hours while on the pharmacological medication. All right. So it felt like a tremendous success. It defied belief. He did not have any, difficult experiences. It was the best time of his life. According to all of his family members, he was the happiest he'd ever been. And, of course, I kept in touch with him when he went back. And as long as I was in touch with him for at least 3 months, he did not have any more seizures. So at some point, the communication died. He just stopped responding to me and the other guests that we all stayed in touch. Stopped talking to everyone. None of us know why to this day. I don't know if he relapsed on drugs. I don't know if the seizures returned. And the big regret that I have is that when he was leaving, I knew that he could not return to his environment yet. And I don't know why I didn't suggest to his father, who was paying the bills, that he should stay longer. And I was willing to do it just at cost of feeding him, just to keep him out of, he'd been a friend for 5 years. He wasn't just a client. So I would have done it for practically nothing, just at no expense to me, But for some reason I didn't say anything. And I knew, he cannot go back to his environment yet. He needs to stay in the jungle for a few months. But I didn't say anything. And then a few weeks ago, his father sent me a message saying that he had unalived himself. So it's a very difficult thing, especially because I have no answers. I have no idea why I didn't just suggest that. I have no excuses. I have no explanation. And of course, I'm not blaming myself, but at the same time, I know that there's a very, very strong likelihood that if he had more time to stay clean and be out of that environment where he had access to all those drugs, because if he started doing, say, meth again, he would start having seizures again, So it's a very, very tough lesson that, we always have to act on these intuitions when they're coming from a place of love, I think. Really, if you associate intuition with the heart, You could say that the intuition of the shaman, that I needed to avoid my mother when I returned to the farm and go straight to the earth and say all of these things to the smoke instead of to her. That's literally what he said. And that's, and she, don't let her intercept you. And she intercepted me. And I said the things to her that I should have said to the smoke. I mean, but the point is that that was an intuition coming from a place of love. And so I should have honored that intuition. And in the case of Mr. Charles, I also should have honored that intuition. And, mostly in this stream, all I've done is tell the stories and how it affected me from my point of view. And I always like to offer people something they can use. So I think, the lesson is obvious, that we must always center ourselves and embrace every opportunity to lend a helping hand. Always try to act from a place of compassion and understanding. No, I can't stream the event because I can't, well, actually, I could stream the event, I guess. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe we can stream it. I'll see what the other people have to say about it. It's a very difficult subject, trying to work through this in real time, Like I said, this isn't like a success story exactly of having come to terms with these things and found the door to forgiveness and all of this stuff. It's more like I'm trying to work through it and allow you guys to be part of the process. Because I think these things have been chewing away at me far more than I gave credit. I was raised in a very macho, outlaw kind of environment, and I went from that to environments where if you showed any weakness, someone might kill you or rob you, or, so I think one of the shadow sides of plant medicine, I think you can become overly complacent and also convinced that you've come farther than you have because you know the efficacy of the medicine, but you can extend it in your mind to cover ground that has not been covered. And we are very complicated creatures. I trained my mind as a very young person to constantly monitor and analyze my behavior, and I'm very good at it. But after this recent split with my partner, it only took like a day to realize how much wisdom I had ignored, things I had known that I just chose not to acknowledge, things that I had been, over crazy, like not subtle things in some cases, like really, really big problems that I had just somehow just lived with, even though, all the plant medicine and conditioning myself for mindfulness and whatnot. It's absolutely baffling in retrospect. The silver lining, I guess, is that whatever it takes, once that lens is finally, opens up all the way and the light shines on the whole picture, I think, that awareness is there now. So it is a painful way to grow. It is forging by fire. It can be embarrassing, humiliating, devastating. But you have to just find the courage to be objective about the lessons, accept the knowledge, integrate it meaningfully, pick yourself up off the ground, and keep walking. Even if you don't want to, I to be honest with you, I really don't want to at the moment. There's just so much. We also lost a really beautiful person under circumstances that are still not understood at one of our events only a few months ago, and then the suicide of Eric, and this all comes on the heels of what happened with my mom and I, and then splitting with my partner, and financial craziness and everything. It's I know that unaliving myself is not an option, but it's there are definitely moments where it's difficult to breathe even. And you just have to find inspiration in everything that you can, Luckily, I'm in a place where... Who's Eric to you? Do you remember Mr. Charles, seeing Mr. Charles in the chat ever? He was a longtime supporter, and I spent a month with him in person, and we would talk. I did a lot of calls with him because he was having a hard time before he came. It was really difficult for him to have this debilitating epilepsy, and he 5 years he was in every stream, and then I spent a month with him, and it seemed we had cured his epilepsy. It was the only time in his life that he'd gone a month without a seizure, much less 3 or 4 months. And then I don't know, we don't know why he stopped talking to all of us. I think he probably relapsed. That's my guess. And what I have a lot of guilt about is that because kratom does not contraindicate with ayahuasca, a lot of people say it'll stop it from working. I've never experienced that. I have chronic inflammation that causes me a lot of fatigue and pain, and I take kratom. And I would try to only take it in the morning if I had ceremony, but there was no problems. There's lots of testimonials online about how it's not. I'm sure you could overdo it and there'd be a problem, but I did not prohibit it because I knew that he was coming out of a opiate addiction and he had epilepsy. So I just thought if without the kratom, I asked him to keep it to a minimum, that he would have too much difficulty. So I regret that as well. I should have made him stop and just dealt with it, because I don't think it was good that he left there in withdrawal from kratom, and went back into his environment. probably having at least minor withdrawals. So shoulda, woulda, couldas are, you know, wisdom can be a hard one. Yeah, I don't know what I think of this stream. I mean, I'm sure there could be people that were judging, like, this guy's like talking about his mom's suicide, but it sounds like it's all about him, you know. But that kind of is the point, you know. That's all I know about it is how I experienced it, you know. And I think a lot of people that experience this probably have similar circumstances, you know, because I think a lot of narcissists probably end up killing themselves eventually. It's a very lonely existence, a very empty existence, a very angry existence. You know? I mean, I've noticed that since all of this has happened, I've developed like a sort of jaded quality to my speech. I hear it a lot, you know, it bothers me. And I know that I need to overcome it, you know. And I have to do that with love and compassion for myself. And I don't really have that. It's almost more of just like a neutrality or something. It's really interesting to me that, you know, I'm really adept at helping other people. You know, any one of my past clients would tell you that. A lot of them tell me I'm the only person that can help them. I'm not a trained therapist. I have no degree in psychology. But, you know, a lot of people have told me that people that did have those degrees and that were certified therapists couldn't do anything for them. But I'm not as adept at lending myself the same service, you know. I'm like a Vulcan. Dr. Spock. You know, I mean well, but I don't feel much. Well, this stream didn't really hold people too well. I guess maybe the drama's all run out. I'm obviously very tired. Maybe I only did this stream to try to keep myself sane in the midst of all of this calamity. I don't know why I'm drinking that coffee. But, you know, if you guys have any questions or comments, down to try to interact. Tom Petty on Safari, look. Yeah, man, I just emerged from the jungle after, you know, like 5 years of being in the jungle. And I didn't care, you know, about clothes. I can't really buy clothes there. Everyone's so tiny. So, you know, my t-shirts all had holes in them, and I only had like these like weird hippie pants that I've never really seen Ecuadorians wearing them, but they sell them everywhere. Only like white hippies seem to wear them. But, and I realized I had this speaking event, and people are much more together here. So I was like, I can't go to this speaking event, like moth holes in my. I gotta go get some decent threads. So I got this hat and this alpaca sweater, some nice black pants, and some new shoes. And I realized that what's actually happening is that I'm transitioning back into civilized culture. Like, I don't want to, but I think I need to in order to share what I've learned out here in the jungle all these years, and really living outside of society my entire life. It's given me a unique perspective, and I'm increasingly aware of that as time goes by. Primarily, like how little I was influenced by the indoctrination that most people experience in society. I really dodged that bullet. Let me tell you, it's weird to be on the outside looking in. It's difficult to make sense of it and understand. But a lot of people, including Eric's parents, I think they really wanted me to come. The father offered a room or a farm or I don't know, something, and Eric's mom really wanted to meet me. His brother reached out to me because I couldn't save him, but I gave him a lot of happiness over the years, and the best month of his life. And so they all really wanted me to come during what was a very difficult time for me, and I just could not imagine trying to reintegrate into like Portland or something. I like if I go into a mall, it's literally like hell. Like the fluorescent lights, and I can't do normal stuff. Like I hate being in a grocery store like vehemently. I don't like walking down the street in a town. I just feel exposed and like I just don't like it. I don't like society at all. I really don't. Like nothing about it. There's no aspect of society except for nice restaurants. Like that's 5-star restaurants I'm all about that. But that's the only thing that I can think of. I don't want to go to the club. I don't want to go to a bar. I don't want to go to the fucking mall. I don't want to do any of those things. Oh wow, the chat kept so the way I see this, I'm kind of like staging the reintegration into maybe the United States, because I think it just would have been too much of a shock if I had just gone directly from the jungle back to the U.S. in a major city. I would have just been so depressed. So it's good that I made this little detour, like thousands of miles. But it's cool, there's ruins behind my house, and it's beautiful. There's snow-capped mountains around. And, really interesting indigenous cultures. The women, the little tiny women, they have these top hats and they wear them sideways. They look all gangster. It's hilarious, but they're all considerably, they're just as wide as they are tall, and they all have braids that are like tied together in the back, and then the sideways top hats. And they're very, very stoic all the time, but then if you get them talking, some of them are like really, upbeat and like kind of funny. Very interesting culture here. Yeah, you should come to Peru, man. I would love to see you again. It'd be great to have some friendly company. it is, weirdly lonely because I had my partner at my side every day for the last 6 years because I work online and I was always home, and everywhere we went, in fact, before we were together, it was the strangest thing because I saw her in that coffee shop and I heard Pachamama say, "She will have your babies." And I was like, yeah, right. She's like 15 years younger than me, and like, it just does not even look like that's totally two different worlds. I didn't take it seriously at all. And then every day following that, I was sitting on the curb in front of this coffee shop, and I looked, and there she was. She didn't say shit. She just was sitting there beside me. And I was like, what the hell? What? And I tried to kind of talk to her, and she seemed like she didn't really want to talk to me. So I thought, well, she just needs somewhere to sit. It's not about me. So I just left. And then I go to a party, and I'm sitting on the steps again, and I look beside me, and there she is again. And I'm like, she is doing this on purpose. And I try to talk to her, she didn't want to talk to me. So I get up and walk around, she follows me. Try to talk to her, she still doesn't want to talk to me. She's like just kind of like standoffish and almost hostile, But everywhere I went, she just appeared beside me. And then just like wherever I went, she went with me. And now that I think about it, it never really changed much. It was just like, we were just like energetically bound to each other or something, And then my son came along, and so now the silence in the house and stuff is like, it can really get to me. Feeling of being haunted. I'll go walking around town, and in my mind's eye, I can see where they would be, around me, and it's a really uncomfortable period. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Yeah, mid-May, I'm hoping, I think I can fully pull myself together by mid-May, and people are inquiring. So if you're interested in coming to PSOC, the focus will probably be on Wachuma. We have a lot of world-class Wachuma shamans here. This is the place for that. So one of the things I'm doing tomorrow is kind of filtering through, who is going to be my ally in this project. And then we are going to, somebody told me, hold on, let me see, like, somebody told me the jungle's not as close as I thought, which would be a bummer. Let's see, PSOC to jungle. Distance. I already checked. I think the woman is wrong that told me this. Oh, wow, man. You can actually walk from Machu Picchu to the jungle in 4 days. I bet that is badass. Wow, man. What do you guys think of that? Does that sound like a good idea? 3 days, 3 to 4 hours of downhill river rafting from Machu Picchu to the jungle. So it's not true. She was telling me the jungle's 9 hours away or something. It is not 9 hours away. Definitely not. Inca jungle trek to Machu Picchu, 3 days. No way. No way it's 9 hours in a car if you can walk in 3 days. So, and that's another possibility that we can integrate into the event in mid-May, is that we will actually take a train to Machu Picchu. There's a train that goes from here to Machu Picchu. But either way, there are ruins all around. There's a town called, I think, Maras, that is about 30 minutes away. And behind the town, there are these, why is this going out of focus? Track my face. There you go. Fuck with me. Yeah, so concentric circles, we have stones, and I'm really interested in this pattern for a number of reasons. One of the things I'm looking for is things that tie traditions together. Because there are a lot of things we know, right? Like every single shamanic tradition, you cast a circle. Before you start like an ayahuasca ceremony, it's a circle. If it's the druids, it's a circle. If it's the Western mystery tradition, it's a circle. If it's the Western occult tradition, there's a circle. Always a circle, and it always has the same purpose. The perimeter defines the space that you're managing the energy in, and you do not let things outside of the circle's perimeter inside of the circle. So, you know, no matter what tradition there's that. Almost every tradition that I'm aware of, maybe every single one, acknowledge the four directions at some point in almost every ceremony. What else? Because it's not just the four directions. The four directions aren't really directions. Obviously, they're, you know, it's arbitrary. The elements are not really the elements that, you know, the earth is not dirt. You know what I mean? Water is not like physical water. These are much more subtle qualities of, you know, actual elements. For example, when you apply great heat to metal and it drips like water, that is more along the lines of what these elements are than when we're talking about them in a ritual context. Right? So the four elements, the four forces of physics, the four fundamental forces of physics, the four archangels, all of these things are what we are referencing. And then also, turning to the left generally means sorcery, bruja, you know, self-serving, black hat, magician type sorcerer. Turning to the right is a white hat healer. Doesn't matter whether you're in a Masonic lodge or the jungles of Borneo or wherever. So there are all these weird consistencies. There's even stranger things, like the Mercury Thoth is, what is the word? Psychopomp. So it helps people to transition to the other world. In both Egypt and in Mexico, there are like motes of mercury around some of the tombs to help to. So the metal that we call mercury has the same function as the mercury in the myth of the Greeks and in Mexico. The metal, like there's some weird relationship there. You can't say there isn't, you know, but it's like almost difficult to articulate. So basically what I'm getting at is I'm looking for more of that. This invisible thread that weaves through all of these cultures and practices. And I'm quite certain that, for example, I will find the symbol of the Philosopher's Stone in other cultures. It's got to be, because the symbolism is so fundamental to certain types of wisdom. So, you know, stuff like that. I'm going to definitely be scouring the carvings, and I actually have a date with a expert next week to go out into the ruins. So I'm going to have, you know, it's going to be legit, like ancient alien style. And I mentioned the ancient alien things because this is where the elongated skulls are. It's where they were found, some of them. Yeah, I mean, all the details are pretty much there. Mid-May, I'm going to try to do it for my birthday because I kind of see this event as, in a sense, it's the culmination of my life up to this point, you know. So for sure, May 14th, probably for 1 month max, and then you can come for any. That's the way I've always done it. That you can come for whatever period, like within a month time frame. Pretty casual. And then there's also the possibility of just working one-on-one. I like to do that with people. So, and you know, we have this unusual circumstance of having these plant medicine mystery school people everywhere here, which is weird. It's really strange. I mean, I guess it makes sense that if those people are going to be anywhere, it would probably be here, right? So, I mean, the energy of this place, I think it's like on the level with the pyramids, you know. In a slightly different kind of way. It's not as maybe as like, you know, mega. You know, it's like it's more spread out and a little bit more subtle. But it's like that. You know, when I first arrived here and got out of the taxi, I was tingling from head to toe. And people are just different here. You know, they're much more happy and friendly, and maybe it's because there's more money. But when you go by the shops and the market and stuff, if you don't want to buy something from a merchant, they'll still be helpful, which isn't necessarily the case in a lot of other places. So there's a lot of friendliness that seems pretty genuine, and a lot of really interesting people. Of course, we have plenty of that like new agey, corny, plastic spirituality. People that have just managed to monetize absolute garbage. You know, and I think most of them even mean well. They just don't know any better. But I do feel like we actually have a higher than you would expect percentage of like really solid scholars of mysteries and plant medicine and stuff. And, yeah, so Athena, you speak a little bit of Spanish. I love that I speak better Spanish than a lot of my Latin friends in the United States. I think most of them at this point. That cracks me up. Yeah, you know, when you see numbers that are aligning like that, it's definitely meaningful. It's a strange thing because, of course, you know, the matrix-bound mind would tell you that you're like borderline schizophrenic, and there's actually a name for it. Hold on, let me get this. It's super hard to pronounce. What is it called when you see strings of numbers and think it's meaningful? Oh, it's not coming up. It's nothing but like the angel number crap and all that. There is a word for this. It's considered a condition. Hold on, let me see if I can get it. What is the condition? Maybe one of you guys can find it faster. I'm going to pop it in the chat if you see it. Pareidolia, I can't even say it without a Spanish accent. Pareidolia. That's not it though. That's when you see patterns in things. Anyways, though, 4 is the number of initiation. And so 444 is, it was really weird. When I was going through like the peak of my process, that was one of the first strings of numbers that was significant. And what happened was my roommate, I didn't really pay much attention at first because he just kept saying 444, like look, 444, you know, he'd see it everywhere and he was always pointing it out. And then I had all these weird Aleister Crowley synchronicities, and I ordered a book, and he received the mail, and he pulled the book out, and his eyes got all big, and he turned it towards me, and on the spine, it said 444. And, you know, there's way more to the story that would make it, like, much more impressive sounding, but we don't need to get into it all right now. But yeah, that's, you know, the thing about the interpretations of all this is that there is a degree of subjectivity to it. It is your world, it is not mine. But I can tell you that 111 generally is associated with like truth and love and harmony and all of these kind of things. 444 is about initiation into new levels of knowledge. 555 is cyclical 666 has to do with enlightenment and illumination and light and the sun. And 777 is not the best premonition. It's definitely, sevens are kind of scary. So hopefully you don't start seeing that a lot. 1111 actually is a glyph of symmetry. And the reason there are two 11s is that one of the 11s represents the magical expansion internally that is reflected in the magical expansion externally, because 11 is a number of magical expansion. It's also the complete Sephirot. So the normal Kabbalistic tree of life has 10 Sephirot, and the doit, the throat chakra, basically is knowledge and relation, and so it's usually drawn not at all or very faintly, because knowledge is like not real in the same way that, you know, Keter and Chachma and Bina and Tiferet, all the actual realities in the universe. It's just perception and relation. So I hope that helps, you know, best I can do. So yeah, I mean, if it was me and I was seeing that number a lot, I would like prepare to receive, you know, new types of knowledge. And the best way to do that is to be prepared to let go of old knowledge. You know, we all fall in love with ideas. We all adopt beliefs based on our predilections, you know, our proclivities and wish demons. So if you're seeing 444 a lot, reminding yourself to be philosophically, ontologically, epistemologically, maybe even morally malleable, so that you can receive new information. And remember that anytime there's a transition from any state to another state, there's usually a period of chaos, because the constituent parts have to have space in order to reconfigure themselves and re-engineer themselves. And so that empty space is the chaos that allows things to move. Without that, there would be strict order with no possibility of reconfiguration. So, what do you guys think of the thumbnail? Was that too weird? I asked the AI to just give me a family morning and to put an angel and the devil, and it was putting horns on all the little kids and stuff. And it would have like bodies coming up out of the grave, like all bloody, and I mean, it was insane. It was insane, man. The images that AI gave me when I just asked for a family mourning around a grave, you know, it went ballistic. All right, so I mean, I still have time. We're basically through the suicide stories, but I have a little bit more time. So if you guys have anything that you'd like me to riff about. It's not every day that you get to talk to the fastest crab in Minnesota. Okay, so he's asking about the nature of light in the physical world. That's a perfect question for me, because the mystery tradition, and it's not even like, I hate even putting labels on anything, because what it really is that the mystery adepts figured out the truth. You know, it sounds arrogant, but it's fucking true. I mean, there's no way around it. It's not even that hard either, which is like mind-blowing. The truth is like right in front of your face your whole life, all of it. And, you know, all of it that can be known, at least, with any degree of certainty. And so, a lot of people say that the quintessence, the fifth element, is spirit, but it's not. It's light. And there's no difference between spirit and light, because light is the source of our consciousness, Do I have any old photos of me? No. Nope. I have no pictures of my mother. I have no pictures of my brother. I have no pictures of me as a child. I don't tengo nada. No tengo nada. Okay, maybe you could clarify that question a little bit, but light is the central secret. It is the organizing principle of the universe. It is the source of our consciousness. It is visible spirit. If you think about it, all the descriptions of spirit or God in all of the traditions all over the world, pretty much, it's eternal, unchanging, right? Photons are believed to be eternal. They do not disappear. They never run. They exist forever. The minimum age is considered to be 1 billion years, but it's possible that they're eternal. And at the speed of light, there is no time. So they're changeless. They're eternal. It's the writing's on the fucking wall. And even in Christianity, which really just it was written by adepts of the mysteries, and they wanted a system to control people, so they cloaked the truth in myth, as one pope put it. The pope said this about Christianity, that we had to cloak the truth in myth, and that's why you have the sunlight walking on the water and the sun moving through the Southern Cross in 3 days, just like he spent 3 days on the cross. The sun stops moving 22nd, 23rd, 24th of December, and then moves again 1 degree, so the 3 days in the tomb, all of it. It's absolutely insane. I could go even further with the craziness that is so blatantly spelled out in the Bible that people just somehow, I don't know how they miss it, but they do. But there are only two things in the universe. Two. Void and light. And in the electromagnetic field is basically light. Matter, this table here, is light in a standing wave. And then you have the actual, light that's illuminating shit. So, if God is the all, and God is eternal, changeless, formless, I am the light. And so I think the oscillation of the wave, there's 2 poles, and the interaction of those 2 poles, I think, is what gives rise to consciousness. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but why is there no... Oh, does that mean you didn't read? What's my astrological sign? I'm a Taurus. Of course. Where's everybody going, man? People dropping off? Is it getting late somewhere or something? Gara Bikrait. I haven't seen that name in the chat in a while. Man, it's too bad that this one turned on at an hour into the... I don't understand why that happened. Yeah, is a mess with people? What is a mess with people? Yeah, one thing that I didn't really explain so much here, and I'm not claiming that I've pulled this off, because obviously, I've made no secret of the fact that I have not been able to come to terms with the animosity towards my mother. I haven't. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wish I could, but I haven't. But I still know what the trick is, You have to be able to understand that, you have to be able to analyze your relationship with your parents and then see it, how it is manifesting in your life. That is the first step. And you just have to do your best to understand without animosity. I've failed at that still to this day. I feel like I might be getting over the hump, you know? But again, you know, I can see where that influence manifested and contributed to the only relationship I've ever cared about falling apart. So it's a very difficult thing depending on the extent of it. You know, I really do envy people that had like good parents, you know, because it shouldn't have been this hard for me, you know. But it's still, to this day, it's wild when I see people that are like close to their mom and the way their mom treats them, the way they treat their mom and stuff, and I'm like, wow, that is nothing like what happened in my, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, and you know, I'm aware of the difference it would have made. So, you know, nevertheless, man, we have to be able to like harvest the understanding, and just do our best. You have to look at it, you know. A lot of people are so indoctrinated with this idea that you just have to love your parents no matter what. You know, it's not true. It's not true, it's not good. That you have to honor your parents no matter what. You know how many people out there are Nazis or have some kind of evil belief system because they believe they're supposed to honor their father? You know what I mean? If your father is a shitbag, you don't have to honor him. Doesn't matter what the Bible says, it doesn't matter what you've been told, you know. It's okay, you know. You don't have to hate anyone, but you certainly have to give yourself permission to see things as they are and respond appropriately. Have I drank recently? Like, drank what? Like, alcohol? The first 2 days I split up with my partner, yeah, I drank alcohol. But then I realized, like, no, man, if you let this pull you down, you'll never get up again. So I nipped that in the butt right away. And if you mean ayahuasca or San Pedro, no, I haven't, but I do intend to. Pretty soon. I still have not regained my, like, stability in terms of, like, I feel too shell-shocked, you know. I don't think I should yet, but soon. I might take a small dose of San Pedro sometime soon, but man, it's difficult to drink San Pedro without a partner, because for me anyways, it's a very powerful aphrodisiac, so it's kind of hard to imagine drinking San Pedro without that recourse at the end of the experience. What's my end game? You're gonna have to ask that differently. I don't know what you mean. Tom Petty on Safari, really? I was never a Tom Petty fan. I was so surprised when I found out he overdosed on heroin and died. Like, he just did not strike me as the junkie type. I thought he was like a normie, you know, that's why I didn't really like his music much, because it just seemed like a little bit too much like white person, golf shoes, shit hook, dress shirt, like normal office worker boomer kind of vibes. And I'm just not about that. So I never got into Tom Petty. I do, if you're still there, Luminostic Mind, please let me know what you mean by what is my end game. Because I don't understand the question. Do do not understand the question. I don't know if this was a good thumbnail. This is like the lowest attendance I've had in a live stream like ever. I mean, who wants to think about this depressing shit, right? Does that mean you're gone, Illuminastic mind, that you're not answering me about this in-game thing? It seems like an interesting question, but I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Here, let's see. Maybe Google can explain to me what is my in-game. What is in-game? To blow up the outside world, basically. In-game. Let's see. The very last part of a game, like chess or backgammon, the last few moves you make in your chess game or your in-game. Well, ideally, we need a revolution. And it's... it wasn't you that asked that? Who was it then? I'm sorry. Oh, Northern Light. Okay. You know, I feel like right now, what I'm trying to do is accept monetization of my existence without one of the really unfortunate aspects of my upbringing is my mom being really poor. She kind of programmed us to think that people that cared about money were fucked up in the head. Like, that if you cared about money at all, that you were like a sick fucking weirdo or something and there was something wrong with you. And of course, you know, being a yuppie and like having a vapid existence that's just about your bag is dumb. But she took it too far, you know, the way that... So right now, I mean, if this is my in-game, you know, I mean, I'm 45 almost, trying to overcome that programming and then, you know, really try to overcome the obstacles that I've had growing my presence on social media and really just embracing the potential that exists for us to create some momentum in revolutionary movement. You know, there are more and more people that are having that impulse, and so some of it I don't like, man. One of my friends last night, you know, he's kind of going off about unifying people under a specific doctrine, and that's a fucking nightmare. We don't need that. We don't want that. That's not good, you know, and we're going to see a lot of it. I mean, if things continue the way they're going, there will be an uptick in cults. People all want to belong to something, and there's a lot of ostracizing and alienating of people happening right now. There's a lot of people that are afraid, you know, so. An in-game needs a strategy, so my basic intention right now is to use AI as much as possible to automate as many tasks as I can and try to overcome the hostile algorithm using AI, and also to try to align people. Join my Discord. What is my purpose in life? My purpose in life is to do what I do on YouTube, really. I guess when I was a small child, I was just born like a little mystic, you know? I mean, I remember being like 6 or something, and I saw a grasshopper, and this voice in my head was like, before it's all said and done, you will have lived an entire lifetime from the point of view of everything that lives, every single ant, every single grasshopper, every human being, every blade of grass, like, you know, and now, of course, I realize that's completely insane for, you know, a little kid that young to be thinking about stuff, but that's all I thought of. That's how, you know, all the time, since as long as I can remember. And I always kind of felt like, how is it that people are able to live their entire life just eat sheep, eat sheep, eat sheep, eat sheep. I ate sheep the other day. Eat, sleep, shit, fuck, raise kids. It's just lame as hell, and without asking all these big questions that I couldn't stop thinking about. And then when I started going to school, and I realized like they were all brainwashed by Christianity, and kids were telling me on the playground that because I didn't believe in Jesus, I was just by default a devil worshiper. And even in second grade, I had the presence of mind to say, well, no, I don't believe in the whole religion, therefore I don't believe in the devil. No, my daddy says if you don't believe in Jesus, then you're automatically a devil worshiper. So I started to assess the situation pretty clearly, pretty quickly, that the religions and the politics had trapped people in these sort of delusional walking sleep, and I wanted to snap them out of it because I could see how much human potential we were losing because of it. I could see the oppression, and I could see how boring and lame and awful the standardized protocol for life in the United States was. I fucking hated it, from the time I could talk. And so my objective is to contribute to destroying it and creating something better in its place. I realized that a lot of my potential was lost because our society is not engineered to give people the absolute best support that it could. It's not engineered to give people the best possible education. It's not engineered to produce an illuminated, empowered society. And if my parents hadn't been ignorant of psychology and, if the system was engineered properly, which isn't that hard to do, so much human potential, including my own, would not be lost. And it's just so dumb and tragic that we tolerate it, that we, it's actually getting worse and worse, more and more human potential is squandered as the days go by. So I say, fuck that. Let's grab the bull by the horns, kick it in the fucking teeth, climb on its back, make it our bitch. Yeah, so you guys got anything else? I'll give you a minute to think about it, and then I gotta clean all this stuff up and pack it away for tomorrow. I guess I'm bringing the mics and the camera and the laptop and all this crap all the way to PSOC so that I can record this event, and hopefully I'll be firing on all cylinders again, or at least a couple of them will be firing. All right, going once, going twice. All right, so thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And consider joining Patreon or supporting one of the various options in the chat, because I can't do anything without funding. So I'm obviously deliriously tired, and I need to be fresh for tomorrow. So thank you guys so much. Para todo, and hasta luego.